What is good, people? Welcome back. New settings as we are here. I'm up in Liverpool. Pete, how are we, mate?
I'm good, thanks.
Not too bad, not too bad. We've got the new kits, like I said. All the
Looking
gear,
good.
no idea. Absolutely,
Looking good,
mate.
lad. Looking good.
Different one this week from people that I've done before. Obviously, people that don't know you, do you want to kind of give a little intro into what you do and a bit about that, really?
Yeah, well, we used to be agents. Now we're intermediaries. And obviously, been in the game a long, long time. Go back to working with Neville Southall and Dave Watson and people like that. First agent to have Wayne Rooney. And just Joe Hart's been with me since he started. Leon Osmond, Tony Hibbert. So got a good name in the game, I think. Not too.
What's it? Do you kind of wake up like we've got like Steve in the room over there, and like everyone dreams, I'm guessing, to be a footballer? Did you, I don't know, at the age of 8, be like, I want to be a football agent, or
No?
How did that kind of come about?
Funny enough, it come from when Dave Watson came from Norwich City to Everton. I'm obviously a big Liverpool supporter, but I knew Dave and we started going into the players' lounge and stuff like that, and got to know some of the lads. Norman Whiteside came from Manchester United to Everton, and Norman was due a testimonial committee, and he asked me to be his chairman on Merseyside, which I was. And then from then, after meeting Nev Southall, Nev wanted me to be his chairman. So I was his chairman for 12 months, best 12 months of my life. And from then we started looking after a few of the young Everton players, Tony Grant and people like that to start off with. And then we ended up looking after Richard Dunn, Michael Ball, Phil Jevons, and going right through to just basically where we are now.
Is it kind of, obviously, back then, how long have you been in the game now?
Far too long.
Obviously, you're talking about those names then. Was it kind of that, I don't know, not just like generic people, but football people, and I think agents sometimes get, from the outside world, probably get a bad rap, kind of a look at them sometimes. Back then, was it kind of that, still that kind of, oh, you're an agent, or I don't know about that, or was it different?
No, it was a funny one back then. I mean, you basically done people's deals on the back of a cigarette packet. It was. I mean, now obviously you're intermediary, UEFA, FIFA, and everybody else is involved in the FA, which has evolved during the game now, and obviously contracts have got, had to be signed now. Then it was just a shake of a hand, and people trusted you, you trusted them. So no, it's come a long way since then.
Do you think that kind of that trust has come down from, or that kind of how easy it was back then? Has that kind of come about with the influx of kind of foreign players coming to the game? A lot of the Premier League obviously being heightened as it is to what it is now, so much money involved, and people want the best players around. Do you think that kind of, like with Arsene Wenger in terms of a coaching standpoint, changed the game on its head with his ideas on nutrition? Do you think the kind of bringing in export players from Spain, Germany, people, places like that, has that made the difference, or do you just think how the game's evolved?
No, it's made a massive difference from where, sort of back Neville's days and Dave's days, it was unusual to have a foreign player. Mm-hmm. Now, every club going down to the conference have got foreign players as well, and foreign players do bring a lot to the game. No, just say they just bring a lot to the game with nutrition, as you've just said. How they. It was a strange one in the early days at Everton when sorry Douglas, in the early days when we were at Everton, when Neville and Waggy and all them were there, suddenly Oliver DeCourt come and John Collins, who'd come from abroad, where the lads would go out, most probably a couple of nights a week, just the boys, they would sort of come over and they'd be going to have a meal with their wives and have a glass of wine, and our lads couldn't get their head around it, we go out and have 10 pints of lager with the boys, with Norman and stuff like that, It was a massive drinking culture then, and then suddenly these players realised that if they train, ate and drank well, then it prolonged their careers. And some of the lads who were at Everton most probably went on to get another 2 or 3 years out of it. Yeah. Where if they'd have carried on down the road that they were doing, they'd never have got them extra few years.
And you kind of speak, like I said, about the nutrition and kind of prolonging your career. Is that kind of, as an agent, is that the one thing that you're looking at when looking after your players, obviously you're trying to protect them as much as you can and put their interests first. Is that kind of the day-to-day kind of questions that you're asking the players, or kind of if they're asking you, oh, how can I prolong this? Is that, as you've obviously got more experience within the game, has your kind of knowledge on that really shone through when advising players on potentially maybe a move, or this is available, what you think? Or is it completely just, if the player wants to go there, that's it?
Player will always make the decision with us. We don't make decisions for players. They and their family make the decisions. But as regards to, what they eat and what they drink and how they do it, most of the clubs are professional now and give it them. And as far as I'm concerned, that's what a player should listen to. Listen to his coach. If he wants to play and wants to do what the manager wants him to do, then they listen to them. How
easy, kind of, obviously I'm in the office now, and obviously guys on their different journey as maybe going into agents, be an intermediary, whatever you want to call it. Intermediary, sorry. How much easier is it now for anyone to become a football agent than it was when you first started? Or has it always been easy, or has it always been hard?
No, when you first started, you had to become an agent, you had to put a bond up. That if you gave sort of like £1 million bond, you took that, you didn't have £1 million that you put in as a bond. You obviously took an insurance policy out. But if you give player wrongful information, then they could actually sue you. Mm-hmm. So it's changed now. An intermediary, if I'm being honest, anybody could go into be an intermediary. The problem that you have is there's 6 or 7 huge companies. And if you were trying to start out and didn't have any pedigree in it, I think you'd find it very difficult to sign. Most of the players are already being watched by the big agencies, and they would be making it known that they're watching them. So trying to start off as a young intermediary yourself now, I think you'd struggle really badly.
Being an agent, kind of talk about what is the day-to-day kind of running? Like, what is your day like on a normal day?
It depends. Like Monday, we're all in the office here on Monday, so we'll have a meeting and everyone will go through what the lads have done at the weekends, any injuries. Like we've had a couple of a bad injury to one of our young lads this morning from a game on Saturday. We've had another one who's had a major operation on Saturday, so everybody is updated. So as we don't just have one person looking after players. We're a group. So, if it's a striker, then obviously I'd say to Steve, have a little word with them. And if someone like the 2 lads who have had the operation, there's cards sent to them this morning, I've texted them, a couple of the other boys have texted them to see how they are. And that's what it is. It's looking after your player and knowing your player.
And do you think that's kind of, like there's always these different rumours in kind of good agents and bad agents, or people have been advised wrong. Do you think that when you look at kind of the players, or the players that haven't necessarily had good agents, that maybe is a kind of a main factor? Like you said, it's not just you messaging the player, oh, are you okay, or anything. Your whole team is kind of reaching out to them. Do you think that's kind of where some players are let down by their agent, where they're not looked after as like a family, and it's just, oh, are you okay?
Listen, everybody's different. We have lads that we talk to every other day. Yeah. We have lads that maybe only we talk to them once a month. So it's as little or as much as what you want to do. Mm-hmm. But at the end of the day, any agent who can say to a player, oh, no matter what you do, I can get you to Real Madrid, that's a lot of bloody rubbish. The only way he's going to get to Real Madrid is that he's a good enough player to get to Real Madrid. And really, I think sometimes you just got to calm people down a little bit and just say, listen, just think about it. You're a big fish in a tiny pond here at the moment. So if you want your move and you'll get into this team earlier than if, say, you were at one of the big clubs, which you're looking at now. How many boys you see in the big clubs making their debuts at 18, 19 and 20? Not anymore, you don't see it. You'll see it in the lower divisions because they've got to bring them through. Sell them to keep the club going.
100%. You spoke about there, obviously, the players that you've worked with and those different, obviously, where they've been in their career. Do you kind of, when you first meet a player, and obviously you've seen them play or something, like 1 or 2 times, do you kind of always look at it and think they will be able to get that big move? Or is it hard? Obviously? Yeah,
listen, we wouldn't judge a player on 1 or 2 games. Mm-hmm. A player could have a whalesy, and the next 10 games he's rubbish. Yeah. You know what I mean? So we'll watch a player. We'll analyse them, we'll get the games, we'll look at them, we'll find out what sort of character that they are, because it's not just us representing them, they're representing us at clubs.
Yeah.
So we wanted to come across as well that we're a good company, that we talk to our lads and give the lads proper advice, not blow smoke up their arses, you know, and to basically sometimes tell them what they want to hear. It doesn't work, doesn't help them, and doesn't help us.
No, 100%. And is that probably in the normal kind of, if I want a job at one company, I'll reach out to that company and or apply for that job that's available. Is there any time as an agent, like, so for example, how do you kind of, why do players want to come to yourself or your company? And is it like you reach out to them or they reach out to you, or how's that kind of relationship?
Funny enough, it's both. We have players that are at clubs, and obviously they see the way we look after our players, and we do try and look after our players. Yeah. You know, we're not perfect, but we try and do our best. You know, and sometimes you get referrals that way. Other times we'll go and watch games, and obviously you bump into their parents. They see you there quite a few times, and they know that you're actually watching a game. You're not going and saying, "Oh, that was a great game your lad played, and one great pass on Saturday." You got to know about them, what we do as a company, what we're going to do for them, how we're going to help them. We can do everything off the pitch. They have to do what they want on the pitch. That's all down to them and to the clubs. We don't tell them, don't take any notice to your coaches. That's completely the wrong way. Most probably we go the other way and say, listen, you know, he's at the end of the day, he's your gaffer. Yeah. You know, and if you're going to try and disrespect your gaffer, well, if you disrespected me, I wouldn't want you working for me either. No,
100%. Do you find that, obviously, it's probably natural for, as players kind of mature and stuff, they can take that on board. Is it kind of, I sometimes, from an outsider looking at an agent, I kind of think, and what you said already, it's kind of like that father figure, not kind of telling you what to do, but, well, if it's your gaffer talking, listen to him. Or like you said, you've got ex-pros that you've worked with, maybe talk to him. Is that kind of how you like to work? Kind of that open and honest kind of people person, just talk as a human being, not I'm your agent, you're my player?
No, it has to be that, because if someone's looking after my kids, I'd want them to look after them properly. I wouldn't want them telling lies. I wouldn't want them saying, you know, this, that and the other, when that's just not the truth. It's funny that our lads like Tony Ibbott and Leon Osman, I had them from the start right the way through to their careers. Phil Jevons, Joe, you know, people like that. Their dads would ring me and say, will you have a word with them?
Really?
Yeah. But because that's the relationship. Yeah. We have a relationship that I just want the best for him. I want him to go as far in his career and as play at the highest level that he can. That's what I want to him. So the only way you're going to do that is straight talking. It's no good telling me that he was the best player on the pitch when he's just had a rubbish game. But I would never, ever say to a player, you had a bad game. Yeah. I'd most probably say, what did you do with that pass? You're better than that.
Yeah.
Come on. You know, that doesn't work.
Yeah.
It doesn't work. Battering people. You know, you sit down and look at it, go through it. Stephen's sitting over there. Steve was most probably, in my opinion, one of the unluckiest players ever to pull a shirt on. Definitely. Great talent played, but and that's what I'm saying, you can't guarantee anybody anything. Because without Stephen's injury, Stephen would have played at the very highest level.
And do you think that's kind of where some players, because I think as people, we kind of, I know with myself, I'd rather, if you like me, you tell me the truth. If I've had a shit game, like you said, I've had a shit game, tell me that. Do you think that's where some players, well, you'll be able to tell me from when you first started to now, when you try and give them that honesty and they don't want to hear that, do you think that's where some players potentially, when they don't listen to the right people, they just kind of get those yes men? Do you think that's where a lot of players in nowadays kind of maybe don't necessarily reach the heights because, oh yeah, you're amazing, when actually they've never had the honesty? So when they maybe get it from yourself or someone like you, they're like, well, I don't want to work with this guy, I'll go somewhere else. You just said it there, that sometimes agents get a bad rap. And they do. Yeah. And there is really bad agents out there, believe it or not. There's bad players out there, there's bad managers, there's bad chief execs, there's bad owners. But all you can do is be yourself. We try, when we bring a player in, we tell them that, you know, your mum and dad want the best for you, and so do we. And by the way, if we don't like what you're doing, we'll tell you in no uncertain manner. Yeah. If you're right, we'll back you to the hilt. We'll be there for you. We'll fight for you. We'll go and do whatever needs to be done. But we're not going to go in and say that you're right and they're wrong when it's the other way around, when it's you that's wrong.
We wouldn't even have to go in because you would have been told far before that's your fault. That's down to you.
100%. I want to talk about, because I think a lot of people generically think agents work in the transfer window and that is it. Obviously, we found that today that's clearly not the case.
Definitely.
How does a deal come about? Because I've spoken to friends and people, they think, oh, how is this person not known he's going to Liverpool and it's 9 o'clock in the morning and by 5 o'clock he signed for them? Talk me through kind of like a deadline day for you. Is it all the time, oh, all of a sudden, yep, we'd like to sign him, okay, sweet, and it's done in a day? Or
no,
that's what I mean. So talk me through that kind of process.
It doesn't work that way. Obviously, this transfer window, so what we'll do, it stopped in January. We start working for the July transfer window. And when it closes in August, we're looking for the January window. Mm-hmm. So the amount of deals that you think have got a chance to go through, 9 times out of 10, don't happen.
And what do you think when it comes down to, obviously, the clients you've worked with, you said like Joe Hart, obviously Wayne Rooney at the beginning, when kind of you think, oh, this move could happen, is there any moves where, obviously, or some players that you think that you don't necessarily work with, that if you got a better move at a different time in your career, like you said, with luck, like with Steven and stuff, do you think that plays a massive part with players? The kind of not jumping too soon or jumping too soon and falling off? How is that as an agent to kind of know when it's the right move? Or do you not know sometimes?
But you don't know, sometimes like Joe went from Shrewsbury Town to Manchester City and everything went brilliantly for him. Became England number 1, 2 championships, FA Cups, League Cups, 75 England caps. It works brilliantly. We had a massive problem with the manager at Shrewsbury who was telling us that he didn't think Joe was ready to go. I told him it wasn't his call to do that. That was Joe's call. And Joe, if he didn't go and nothing happened and he ended up finishing his career at Shrewsbury, he would have always thought, what the hell would have happened if I had gone to Manchester City? Not every move works out. You can just go and you try and do your best. Be professional. And if you're lucky, you'll get through it without no injuries. If you're unlucky, you can be flying and suddenly, the way cruise ships happen at the moment, people breaking legs, tackles that you're getting, just unexpected. I think all you can do is you look at it, are they the club for me? Mm-hmm. We have situations where we talk to players and there's people come in and I've gone, honestly, I don't think it's a move for you. But you need to go and talk with your mum and dad. And if you want it, that's it, that's fine. You will always make the decision. If I was to say, don't do that, and then something happens, you come back and go, well, you told me not to do that. Yeah. No, I'm not telling you what to do, nothing. I'm telling you, this is how it is. This is your deal. If that's what you want, and you want to go there, and you want to try it, that's down to you totally and utterly.
100%. You spoke there a bit kind of about speaking to your parents and always having that kind of final say. Has that always been your ethos from the get-go, or is that something you've learned as an agent, or as you've been involved in the
no,
kind of
intermediary
side?
Well, for me, it's always been from there that we work with the parents. Yeah. We actually work for the player. They don't work for us. Mm-hmm. We work for the player, and Stephen will tell you from when I spoke to his parents, which we always go to the parents first when it's a young player, and we go and tell them, we work for you, you don't work for us. We're here to advise you. You will ask our opinion, we'll give our opinion. If you don't want to take it, that's fine, that's entirely up to you. Mm-hmm. Same with contracts. We might think, listen, I don't think that's a good contract for you. I think that maybe if we push it and hold out, I can maybe get you this. Mm-hmm. They might go, do you know what? I'm more than happy with that pay. That's fine. If that's what you're happy, the club's happy, the player's happy. Yeah. Done deal. Happy days. If you've got a club who thinks you've turned them over, or a player who thinks the club's turned him over, then you've got an unhappy player or you've got an unhappy club.
Is there a lot of things that fans, supporters, like we said about transfer deadline day, people think, oh, it's happened within the day. How much do fans not see or hear about when it comes to a player moving? Kind of, is it as black and white as people see, like when it's on TV or something, or is it like people like I think Gareth Bale moved like the day before the transfer window obviously ended when he went to Real Madrid. How long before or anything like that?
I mean, I used to work with Stella, so I know Johnny Barnett and I know David Manassi really well. That deal was most probably in the making for 2 years. Yeah. So it's not. If anyone thinks it's that simple and that easy to do, then why would you need an agent? You know, your mum and dad could most probably go and do it. Your next door neighbour could go and do it. You know, when you see what's actually involved in a deal, it's a huge amount of work, and that's why big players have big agents and big agencies look after big players.
Is there any kind of transfer windows where you've looked back and gone, "Oh, I need a day off now," or any kind of ones that you've worked?
That happens every day. No, it doesn't. Do you know what? You could have worked really, really hard on something and it doesn't go through. Yeah. Something else that's just come up maybe out of the blue, where one club's been chasing a player and that's going and there's an argument going backwards and forwards, and suddenly Club B come in and go, yeah, that's fine, I'll give him that. That's not a problem with me. And it goes through. Sometimes you find the bigger the deal, most probably the easier it is to get through.
When you're talking about, obviously, different moves and players you've worked with, let's talk about, obviously, Wayne, obviously, had an amazing career. At that time, at the very, very beginning, how hard is that when you're looking at from a bird's eye view for such a young player, such an amazing talent? How hard is it on them, do you think, in terms of dealing with that pressure?
If you like Wayne never dealt with nothing. He was that talented. Yeah. He didn't have to worry about nothing. Stevie Wonder could have looked after Wayne Rooney. Seriously, he was that good of a player and that good of a talent. And all he wanted to do was play football. He wasn't interested in off the field stuff till the big contract starts coming in, and the lads most probably make as much money now, you know, on the, you know, off the field and what they do on it. But Wayne was just one of them honest players who just wants to play football. If you ask Stephen, all the lads just want to play football. Yeah. That's all they want to do.
Has that changed, do you think, from when first working with like Stephen or like with Wayne to now, do you think? We were kind of talking beforehand, like being a young player now, I think, like we were saying, how a player might be in the academy on £500 a week 10 years ago. Now that exact same level player could be on £2,000 a week just because how much the game's changed. Is that pressure kind of on the younger players that you see, is that still there, or is it just down to the personality of the player? Like you said, like Wayne just wanted to play football and that was it.
Yeah, I mean, we've got players playing league football for £500 a week, playing for second division clubs and first division clubs. So a young player to be on, say, a couple of £1,000 a week, the easiest contract most probably to get is at 16. Then it gets harder to get your contract at 18, and then that contract after that is harder, and the one after that is harder again. Mm-hmm. So it could be that, you know, if you look at, to say Liverpool's my team, right? Mm-hmm. But if you actually look at Liverpool, how many players have actually come through the ranks at Liverpool? When you think of how many players who've been there since they were 8 and 9 years of age, most probably up to 21 level, 22, 23. How many of them actually come through Man United, Man City? Mm-hmm. You know, these clubs will go and buy a world-class player because they can do. Mm-hmm. You see players who start off at Crewe. Stephen started off at Liverpool and then went across to Tranmere and then Derby County, Bristol City, Blackpool and stuff like that. You know, good clubs, but he has a different ground and to someone who's at Liverpool who's on £2,000 a week. Someone at Liverpool who's on £2,000 a week, if that's what they're on, then you try and get them into a first division club who most probably their highest paid players on £1,500 a week, and a seasoned professional that a young lad is, what's he done? Played under 18 football. Where's his CV? Where's he gonna go out? Where's he played? What men's football has he played? Hasn't played any. So it might be money that you get early doors, but what happens to your career? Suddenly Liverpool don't want you, Man United don't want you anymore, City don't want you anymore, Everton don't want you anymore. Suddenly you're having to maybe drop from a Premiership club, which we've had a couple of players done that this year, and suddenly they're at a second division club on a quarter of the money that they were on at the bigger club, and no spectacular training ground. No, if it's a bit cold, you got a nice fleece to train in. If it's a bit of wet, you got a wet gear to train in. It's take your own kit home and wash it. So for me, if I'm being totally honest, I would like a player who's in a crew of this world, maybe a Tranmere, local wise, that start from the bottom and build themselves up. Because then if they don't want it, they've started at the bottom. If they don't want it, then that's where they'll stay. And the big problem is that you can be at Liverpool this year, City, Man United and all of them, and then suddenly you're released and...
No one. Yeah, no, 100%. I have to ask this because I'm so intrigued to know. Is there a deal that obviously that you've helped go through, or what has been the easiest kind of transfer that you've had a say in, where you were just like, wow, that was easy? Or is there any
I don't think I've seen any deal that's easy, because it's all hard work. If anyone thinks that it happens in 5 minutes, it doesn't. You've got to know your player, and by the way, you've got another manager who's got to fancy your player, has got to really like what your player's doing. And it could be that, that the manager who really likes him isn't in the club for the lad to go to. Yeah. Or it's just maybe not the right deal at the right time. No, I would be telling lies if I said a deal's easy. Yeah. Sometimes it gets that there's 5 or 6 clubs that's after your player, then that's an easy deal, because you've got 5 people, and then that gives the lads a chance to say, listen, it mightn't be that they're offering you the highest money. I really don't think that's the club for you, because I don't see no pathway for you. Here's one that might be a division lower. Maybe you go and play there for 2 years and then kick on again. And then you've got the situation as what would have happened if I had gone to that club. So that's where you've got to be really careful. That's why it's got to be the player. But your advice, but it's got to be his decision at the end of the day.
100%. Where would you kind of say, if you weren't in this game, what would you be doing? Or have you ever thought about that?
I run my own business before I come into this game. I've been into it a long time. And like a lot of people, had ordinary jobs. And it was one of them, when I sort of met Nev Southall, that's when it all changed. When Dave Watson come to Everton, that's when it all changed. And you get the bug. And if I'm being honest, we've been speaking about it for the last couple of weeks, because we haven't been able to go and see like first team football. I'm a mad red, I've got a season ticket and everything else, what I go to. But I get more pleasure out of watching our young lads, like Joe did when he was 16, like Stephen did. And then suddenly they're playing under 18, then they might play 21s, and then they might get called up to an England squad. And that to me is the best part of the game, is to watch the young lads come through and see them go and play what their level is. I'm not being funny, you don't have to be just because Joe played for England. I was proud of a lot of other our lads who most probably ended up playing first and second division football. But that's the highest, that's what was going to take them there. And we've still got lads who started off at Everton who are like playing for Wrexham and playing for Tranmere and stuff like that now, that we've had all their careers. And they give me as much pleasure as going to watch someone who's playing for an international team.
No, 100%. And you speak about obviously being a Liverpool fan. I think we're all Liverpool fans in this room. If you could have one player ever that you could work with directly or just be involved with, is there a player that, past or present, not in the Liverpool team, but like the Messis, Ronaldo, is there anyone like that you would...
Oh, the big stick-up would be Steven Gerrard. Yeah. Which was brilliant, because I knew Stephen as a young lad, because I used to look after Michael Ball, and both of them were with Adidas. And what a great lad throughout his career. Very rarely that you see Stephen in a bad press. Just a perfect professional.
No, 100%.
Perfect. Well, I've watched him all. Watch Messi. Messi for me is the best player in the world.
Better than Ronaldo?
Someone's putting his hand up over there to say he was the best player. I'm sorry, she was. No, Messi, best player in the world for me.
If you, for example, what would your one bit of advice be for someone wanting to get into the game? in a position like yourself, what would your one bit of advice be?
Don't
do it.
do it.
Do you think that's because, is that just your own personal belief? Or?
No, it's because the game we just spoke about how much the game has changed. What sort of ordinary lad, shall we say, can sort of go and watch a player and he might spot someone, and it'd be very rarely that the big companies haven't spotted them. How does he have a chance of sort of, going to that player and going,
work with me?
Who have you got? Who do you look after? And who have you looked after? Nobody. It's great for players like Stephen who've had a good career, and we looked after him all the way through his career, and we're just giving him a little bit of a chance here now, and he does well. Liam comes from a completely different background. He's like serving his apprenticeship, and he'll tell you it's not easy. And we put stuff on them because it's no good of saying this is what you do. You just suddenly say, see him, you just go and sign him. He's fine. He's going to come to you. No, he's not. You have to work hard for everything that you've got. Everything that we've got here, all the players that we've signed for, we've worked hard to get them. And we've had them. There's other big agencies. We've lost other players to agencies who we thought that we might be the better agent to look after them.
100%. Last question. What would be your one kind of, when you finish within the game, what's the one thing you want to be remembered by your players, by people within the industry? What's the one thing you want to be remembered for?
I don't know, just want to for respecting that I've done the right things, and I think I have. I don't think I've got many enemies in this game. Just to be remembered that the advice that he gave me was the right advice. I might not have took it, and. But what you hope is if I'm paying for someone to give my kids advice, they should be given the right advice. They shouldn't be blowing smoke up their asses if that's not the. If you've had a bad game, players are not soft. Yeah. I can finish off with one story if you want. Am I allowed to swear?
Yeah, crack on, mate. Anything you like. So.
Neville Southall. Mm-hmm. Through Dave Watson, I got to know Nev. I'm in the players' lounge, seen him come in a few times. Nev hates everybody. Let me tell you before I even start. Hates everybody. I got on like a house on fire with him. You come in after this game and I've gone, well played, Nev. And he went, what fucking game was you watching? And I've gone, what, you know what? You were shite. And he went, I know. And me and him were the best of friends and still are from there. So don't try and blow smoke up people's arses. Just tell them the truth. Or tell them what you always have your arguments. If I say you've done well with that, you go, well, why do you think you've done well with that? Because you spotted someone, or you spotted the run, or you held the ball up, or you got into the area. Or don't just say, you've done well if you can't back up what you're talking about.
100%.
Yeah, spot on.
I think that's a good place to end it, mate. It's been an absolute pleasure to have you on. Hopefully you've enjoyed it.
Just one more question. When do I get my fee? Where's this brown envelope you're supposed to have brought through?
Well, there's no brown envelope here, mate. But everyone, make sure you smash the like button, subscribe, and there'll be more podcasts coming soon. Cheers, mate.
You're more than welcome.
Pleasure.